Welcome to Curmudgeon in the Cellar XIX19, wherein we're going to talk about a bunch of things tonight, and I'm going to discuss some of the appalling behavior I see on Facebook. First off, collectibles. My pitch for the game I'm going to be running at Total Con in a couple of weeks. See this? It's a little Matchbox box. 1991, Series 2. And I had 4 of them coming to mail today. And I ripped them out of the box. And I immediately threw the boxes away. These are the counters in my game. We will have fun on Friday night. I believe it's 7 o'clock. Total Confusion. Great convention. You should go to it. 22nd through the 25th of February out in the Boston area. You can find them online. You can find them on a Facebook page. And 2 weeks after that, another great con, Gary Con in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. 8th through the 11th, another great one. And I'm running the game both places there. Great game. I think it's more fun than Chariots, and I think I'm going to have a lot of fun turning people onto it. Bunch of things to talk about tonight. Of course, I just recorded one of these and realized I left my microphone off the whole time, and so I'm doing this again. So if it sounds a little rushed, it's because I did it again. First off, I've been asked about my hat, my kepi. I bought this years and years ago out of the back of a military history magazine, one of those little ads about stage costumes. And it's a dandy hat. I've had it forever and ever and ever. The only thing is the strap's a problem. And I wear it because it's not like I'm worried about people finding out I'm bald. It's because that big shiny head screws the lighting up in here, and it's hard to see. And I chose a kepi for 2 reasons. Number one, the short brim enables me to shade the light and still look at you. And I have a thrice great-grandfather who was quite the Civil War soldier. He enlisted in an Illinois mounted volunteer infantry group, became federalized, fought with Grant all the way through Vicksburg. And when Grant was sent east, he was part of the contingency of the Western armies that were sent with him. He has 23 major battles he fought on both theaters, and nary a scratch, nor even lose a horse. Amazing battle record. Of course, he was mounted infantry, where I have the cannons and the artillery, because if I'd been there, that's where I'd have been, was with the artillery. I just know it. Probably because I was gravitated toward fire control and blowing up large amounts of people all at once before in this life. Anyhow, that's the kepi. I was asked about Phineas Fingers. I just talked about Phineas at length for another podcast for Matt Finch. And Phineas came to me by a very roundabout way. One winter, we were running, it was called a winter fantasy, with these little smallish cons that we ran in like February. And we'd get 600, 700, 800 people show up. And one winter I ended up with 3 young men from Auburn or Alabama. And they're going to kill me by not remembering which one. But anyway, and they were very vehement about it and very polite. And my wife was just very impressed by how polite they were. It was like they weren't even hardly there. And, yes, ma'am. No, sir. Yeah, everything just nice. And they told me about this friend of theirs who he was part of their campaign back at school. And he would draw cartoons of the stuff that was going on in their campaign and just had everybody in stitches all the time. He was like, sketch. So they told me this guy's name was Webster. So a few weeks later, this envelope pops up at the office from this cat named J.D. Webster. And in it are a bunch of little cartoons and a big proto strip. And they blew me away. all that early stuff was stuff that actually was going on in his campaign with the Hobbit Guild and all that crazy, goofy stuff. I could have strangled him for making me the evil wizard in bed with nubile elf maidens, but that was a case of not getting there in time to do anything about it. When JD started, I was publishing every other month, and he was a college student in an ROTC, training to become a Navy pilot. And it wasn't hard keeping up with the publishing deadlines. But as he got out of school and went into the Navy, deadlines became harder to make. If you look carefully at some of the early strips, you'll see a different hand lettered them. Mine. A couple of the strips are tinted differently. Again, he would get me what he could when he could. That's why we were a little sporadic there for a while. And when I left TSR, he came with me. And then we did the Phineas Fingers, and then the magazine went belly up, and I kind of lost contact with JD at that time, and that was the end of Phineas Fingers. Sad. I would have really loved to have done enough of them to do a book, a comic at least. But that's how I got Phineas. That's how I found Phineas Fingers. Nothing I had to do on my own. I just kind of fell into my lap. Let's see. I have a list, and they're here in front of me, so I don't have to look away from time. Okay. I've got a bunch of things to talk about tonight. Interesting question is, to what detail did I develop the geography and setting of my early first campaign? And the embarrassed answer is very little, other than several days ride over here, there's the mountains, and several days ride over there, there's other mountains, and there's a big forest over there, and it's all forested over there. It's alpine, and it's all desert down here. And it was very vague, because the whole point of our campaign was tracking down the accomplishments, achievements, the sins, if you will, of an evil wizard. And they were finding clues and looking for his stronghold, if you will, in his hidden laboratory. And they had they didn't know it at the time, they had a little green cube, like a standard die that was, well, when I got it, it was blank, kind of looks like J, and I scratched some marks in them, and I stained them with black ink. And they didn't know it. They'd been carrying this thing around for months. And when they finally found the laboratory, they didn't pay any attention to the indentations in the center of the one table, because one of them, in any event, I paid a lot more attention to describing the dungeon crawling that we were doing than I did laying out. Because for one thing, I knew I was leaving. Bottom line, how much time am I going to spend on it? I'm going to work at TSR when I'm done here. So it wasn't worth the effort, really, to put it in. And the guys didn't seem to care. All they wanted to do is kill shit and take their stuff, which is, hey, that's all we ever did back then. Let's see. I saw a silly comment about, it was in response to one of my earlier ones about how old school often featured run away to fight again another day. And he dismissed it as cowardly. It seemed sort of cowardly or petty. Well, I got so many ways to answer that. Supposing I was an author that wrote stories about a group of half a dozen people who set up on a heroic mission. And by chapter 6, 5 of the original 6 had died, and 4 others had been introduced. Confusing, isn't it? How the hell are you supposed to keep all these characters apart in the story? Isn't that what we're doing in one way or another? Aren't we creating sagas, writing stories? I always looked at it that way. I thought the players are writing the stories. I give them some ingredients and an outline at the beginning. They create the words, collect them in the sentences, and collate the sentences in the paragraphs, and the paragraphs in the chapters, and the story unfolds. Thank you. Having to do this twice is really dry. Okay, it's fantasy. We've established that, but we play it based on what we know in a realistic fashion. None of us play a game where we all imagine we're bubbles drifting through the ocean, interacting with corals and fish. Not happening. So what do we have to base it on? We have our what we know, what we understand. So why would you want to keep killing off the characters before the story really starts to get established? Later chapters are for when that can be allowed to happen, in my opinion. We're creating a story. We're chiseling an epic. Run away to find another day. Take an analogy of a 16-year-old boy growing up across the river in Kentucky when it was wild and woolly. And something got in and got one of your piglets. You just found this out. You've been out cutting wood, so you got your big old axe, your hickory handle, and your belt knife. And so you see the broken fence, you start following it, and you follow it for about a half a mile, and there's a bear with half your pig hanging out of its mouth. Do you run right up and attack a bear with a wood-cutting axe and a belt knife? If so, do you really expect to do well at this? Are you looking for a positive income? Or outcome, rather, income. Yeah, you'll get some income. All those claws of his come into your belly as he's disemboweling you on the ground. Run away to fight another day and find a better plan. If you're adventuring for a couple of episodes and you're uncovering clues and dispatching some lower rated meanies, and you find a hidden entrance to the lair, wherever it may be, castle, underground, whatever. You sneak in and you find out that what's been behind all this thing is like a frost giant, and you guys are all 4th, 5th levels. You're going to run in and kill that. Yeah, let me rephrase that. You're going to run in and attack that frost giant? You ain't damn likely to kill it. Not in the position, not in the scenario I've given you. Or do you go, ooh, let's back up out of here, go home, go out back out in the woods, and let's come up with a plan. Right? Run away to fight another day. I grew up with an axiom my mother used all the time. Discretion is often the better part of valor. Walking away from a fight you can't win. All right, that's enough of that one. Oh, I saw an amazingly stupid. Started on a thread. I'm going to start venting on stupid now. Started on a thread that was, hey, can you identify this artwork? And they figured out, yeah, I'd been running Dragon Magazine, and then they started talking about Dragon Magazine, and then some grotesquely uninformed person seemed to be under the impression that Dragon Magazine and or TSR failed because Dragon Magazine ran ads of other people's games, the competitors. Oh, that is just so unimaginably unenlightened. I shudder. Dragon Magazine was started for the express purpose of lifting all the boats by creating a rising tide. How do we do that? We talked about games and gaming, not just our stuff. When you cease to talk about anybody else's stuff but yours, you become what's classified as a house organ. That happened to Dragon, and it sucked, and it died after that for a number of different reasons. Most of them deserved. I'd have put a bullet in its head, and I created it. When you create a house organ, what do you got to tell people? Hey, check out our other games. Are people going to buy that house organ? If they don't, the only people that will buy your house organ are the ones that play your games and your games that are in that month's issue. This is a fact that I've observed over all these years in the industry. That's the juggling act I did every month with all of my magazines over the years. If you don't run the other guy's ads, you have no revenue stream. You have no revenue stream. You have no magazine. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let's see. What other silly stuff we have to talk about here today? I know. Fudging die rolls. There's something we all love to talk about on and on and on and on. So I'll just come right out and say it. Yep. Frequently. When? Whenever the mood of the table seems to be the right time. We've all done it. As early beginning DMs. I just can't bear to kill my buddy Bob. No, I just missed you, Bob. Whoa, you're a lucky dude. After a while, we become hardened and inured to death and screams and pleading. As many of my good friends would say, Bill Webb, Matt Finch, Mike Curtis, Jim Wampler, Jim Ward. Others I've probably forgotten. We don't kill PCs. What we do is present them with many opportunities to do silly things and hurt themselves, which they always seem to be glad to do. I'm just there to provide what they want to do. That's it. Now, when would I fudge? I would fudge any time that it would break the mood at the table. Anytime it would break the mood at the table, I would fudge. If we're rolling along, having some laughs, it's going great, and some die roll that I'm making off by one. Yeah, you made it. Because I want to see, just as much as anybody else, how the story is going to come out. I haven't written the story. You're writing the story. When it's just really hardcore hard luck, I might fudge. Now, if you need a 10 and roll a 1, in fact, you roll a 1, and the only thing I fudge on are the ones that I roll behind the screen, because all die rolls that affect the player character, whether it's 2-hit, whether it's his saving throw, whether it's the damage that he inflicts when he hits, I let the players all roll all those. Their dice go cold. It's not my fault, not my problem. I didn't do it. The only thing I roll behind, and it's only once in a while, so it's very unlikely that it happened. Now, that's how I play in a campaign type setting. At a con, all bets are off. I fudge all the time. Sometimes I fudge to save them. Sometimes I fudge to get a good laugh and teach somebody a painful lesson. Um, some people call it high-handed. Yeah, I don't care. Well, I figure as long as everybody at my table is smiling and laughing and having a good time, I'm not doing it wrong. So, yeah, I do it occasionally. Never tell you when. You'll never know. Let's see. A lot of the questions that I'm seeing on Facebook, and because I just get bored. I look at Facebook. Are just lazy DMs. Just plain lazy. I need a name for my tavern. Boo hoo hoo. You need to do what we had to do back in the days of the early internet. We'd go to obscure websites that had bizarre name generators. And you'd hit that generator name a button about 40 times until you got one that struck you and you go, yeah, that's it. That's how we got our names back in the day. Or we actually did something even more revolutionary. We thought them up out of our own heads. Now, sometimes that meant taking something out of a book we'd read recently and fudging it a little bit and changing a couple of vowels or something like that. But we didn't have a form to go, how can I make a story where they all meet together that isn't in a tavern? Man, how stunted is that person's imagination? One of the problems I had with my partners, issues, not a problem, issues I had with my partners at Eldridge was that I didn't use enough words. When they told me that, I saw it as being told that the people that are likely to buy this have no imagination to fill in the blanks themselves, and so therefore everything has to be spelled out. And I think that must be the blame of the later iterations and later editions and their rigidity and stupidity. And I think that vestige of their influence needs to be rubbed out. Just erase it. Use your imagination. It works that way because you want it to. Another good question about a paladin. Here's one to keep you up all night. I got a paladin in my campaign, and where the group is all set against a big evil bad guy who has enslaved orcs to be his minions. What should the paladin do in regard to the orcs? Can he work with the orcs because he's serving the greater good even though they're evil? Or does he have to kill all the orcs and then go try to kill? This gives you a problem? Come on, it's your world. They can tell you, they can make up this deity that they follow, but hey, you're the ultimate pantheon arranger, and you're the ultimate determinant. You can't let a player say that he worships so-and-so, and this is what so-and-so says I should do. I haven't met a DM that dumb yet that was over the age of 12, so we won't go there. Some of the questions are just, they boggle my mind. Use your imagination. Wing it. It's your world. It works that way because you say so. No, paladins don't do that in my world. Of course, paladins do that. They're allowed to serve the greater good, even if it means embracing evil in a tool sense. Which is probably what I would have said if it had been my campaign. I see people on Facebook, and I know I'm only seeing a few of them. I know that. But some of their questions are, come on, you really need help with that? Some of them I know are trolls just throwing stuff out. Some of them I'm beginning to think are a little more clever. They act like a troll and they throw something out so everybody worries it like a pack of dogs on a bone. And then they come back in and take the good ideas that came out of it and cobble something together, and they didn't have to think. Thinking used to be the time spent preparing used to be quite onerous. It would take me 6 hours of prep. I probably spent an hour of prep for every hour we actually played. And in the beginning, more prep than hours played, just because I didn't know what I was doing. It's a heavy commitment. Let's see what else we got here. Well, that's probably it. Lazy people on Facebook. Unsure DM seeking attribution or seeking, I don't know what they're seeking. I guess they're looking for somebody to say, hey, you're doing it okay. Or, give them a pat on the head. If you're that unsure of what you're doing, maybe I shouldn't be doing it. But if you're that unsure of if you're not sure if you're doing it right, look at your group. If they're coming back, if they're laughing. There's been several memes running around now about TPKs, and of course I'm always mentioned in them. But I probably won't live long enough to live that down. But I've taken another approach now with this wheel of blame, and I figure my laugh to player death ratio ought to be about 112-1. So as long as we're having lots and lots of laughs, okay, somebody can die once in a while. I give out something called the universal antidote at conventions. Depending upon how many players is how many I hand out, and it'll basically fix anything once. And so people that are victims of their own ill-advised actions early in the game can have an antidote and keep on playing with, get their money's worth out of the game. But then they die later if they are just dumb or unlucky, whatever. But I don't focus on killing anymore. I'm focus more on having fun, having laughs. The thing I do challenges them to challenge me, and that's what makes it fun for me, because each one's different and I have to think. And no more by rote. And I think that's all I got, except one more plug. TotalCon, February 22nd and 25th. They take over a big whole resort. Wonderful time, great people. Dirt Track Saturday night, Friday night. And GaryCon, March 8th through 11th. Another great con. They take over the entire Grand Geneva Resort and have, check this out, tableside food service. You put a little colored card up on your table. And that way, the young ladies that are running around serving and whatever know that they won't be interrupting the game if they come over and if you want anything. That's how cool it is. So, gotta go. And with that, I gotta go. So, Curmudgeon says, good day, and damn groundhog had to see his shadow. Bummer.